My name is Ava Weller, and I'm the immediate past president of the Jewish Historical Society. I'm filling in for Alyssa Kaplan, who is away today. On behalf of the Jewish Historical Society, I just want to thank all of you. Without you, the people in this room, we couldn't do the good work that we do. And all of you are important to us, and I just want to thank you for being here, for coming and supporting the Jewish Historical Society. Professor John Barrett will share a few insights now, a little special presentation for those of you who are here. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and it's really a pleasure and honor to be here with you. I'll be talking on the other side of the curtain about the Nuremberg trials following World War II and their contemporary significance. The reason I'm able to do that is because I've had the good fortune to be taught by teachers who had materials that allowed them to educate. And what you do as supporters of a historical society is enable all of that. So I'm a beneficiary of your generosity, your commitment, your vision, and I'm just a token representative of millions, I mean really millions, down through generations that we're never going to know, that benefit from what educators do. So really what I wanted to do is just thank you. I'm not from Connecticut, I'm from New York City, I teach at St. John's, I live in Manhattan, but quick Sunday morning zip up the Hutchinson and here I am. And it's a very impressive community commitment through Ava, her colleagues, the Historical Society, all of you as interested people and supporters, to spend your time on things that matter. And frankly, to spend your resources on things that matter. It's easy to chicken out, or to get fatigued, or to get distracted, or to kind of bunker in selfish pursuits. And we all succumb to that in spots. There's no sainthood, at least certainly not me, and I would bet not too many of you. But there is high achievement and high commitment, and that for me isn't just you in this venture, although again I applaud it. It connects back to the things that bring us here. It connects back to the Manns, who I've only gotten to know through videotape, but we're obviously wonderful, outward-directed, community-building, philanthropic, voluntary service spirits. It connects back to World War II service and occupation army service. It connects back to something like the Nuremberg trials, which we think of as a huge, big project, and they were, but really were lots of people doing their small corner of something outward-directed, rather than folding up, bunkering in, being selfish, not giving it their best. So I'm delighted to be ex officio now connected to your Historical Society and to be here with you this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ava Weller, and I'm the immediate past president of the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County. It's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Society and President Alyssa Kaplan, who could not be with us today. Today we look forward to the first named lecture of our Society, the Norma and Milton Mann Lecture. I would like to thank the Tao Foundation for underwriting today's lecture on behalf of Camille Kramer, who is a dear friend of mine and has been a friend of the Society for many years. Camille, you can stand. Thank you, Camille. It is also my privilege for me and my family to join the Foundation in underwriting the lecture. The topic has significance for me as it has for the Mann family. Some of you may not know that my father is a Holocaust survivor, and we would hope that the legacy of the Nuremberg trials would have made the world more just. Much of my family's history has been lost, but thanks to the foresight of the founders of the JHS, the Jewish community's history in Fairfield County is being preserved. JHS maintains the only Jewish archives in Fairfield County, which is located in Stamford. It holds an extraordinary photography collection with more than 2,000 photos, as well as artifacts and memorabilia. We collect stories and memories about local history through our Oral History Project, now extended to include a new theme of Jewish politicians and movers and shakers. Our Veterans History Project is part of the National Archives Folklife program. How many of you here today are members of the Jewish Historical Society? Great. So that means that many of you are not. So we welcome you to be with us today for this very special program. Some of you may not know that the JHS maintains a free lending library open to all that is located at Stanford JCC with a wide selection of books and DVDs on Jewish topics for all ages. The library also houses an extensive Holocaust collections of books and research materials for those who are interested in today's topic. JHS also holds monthly programs and book talks, and will be offering a new genealogy research workshop series this summer. Please take a look at the back of the handout for more details. I know not everyone got them, but we will be having a program on June 28th at the main Ferguson Library. JHS will present a new program on local history in conjunction with Stanford's 375th anniversary. Our exciting fall program on September 24th, Solving the Mystery, How to Track Down and Recover Art Stolen from the Nazis, will feature by the Nazis, oops. Two active art hunters will share their stories at the Bruce Museum in Greenwich at 10:30. Programs are free and open to the community. At this time, I would like to invite our board members to stand. So you can see our board, our hardworking board, and every board member here helped us put this program on today. So I want to thank you all for your help in making today possible. And I know there are others who've helped who are not board members. If you'd like to stand as well or raise your hand, we thank you very much for supporting us. We can't go on without a special thanks to Marcy Schoenfeld, because she not only is a VP of programming, but she has managed all the food today. And so we want to thank Marcy for her contribution. Please also don't leave today without taking a look at the exhibits. We have some wonderful photographs of the Mann family and a lovely display about Nuremberg. It will really pull some things together, and we want to thank Carmit and Zisman and others. Deborah, I shouldn't be doing this because I know I'll forget someone, but for putting together a display. It's really quite lovely. Today is a special day for the Jewish Historical Society because today we are presenting the inaugural Norma and Milton Mann lecture, named for an extraordinary couple who were most generous with their time and talents over decades. Longtime board members of JHS, they were individually and together leaders in the Stanford community and beyond, making significant contributions that left a legacy of true service and accomplishment. We are fortunate to have their daughters with us today. While no longer living in Stanford, they came here to be with us. And Pamela and Madeline, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Okay. Thank you. So I'm Pamela, this is Madeline, and we just want to say good morning to all of you and express our gratitude for taking the time to honor our parents, Milton and Norma. We know them, they're dear in our hearts, but we are always so touched when we learn that they have touched so many more people within this community. So thank you for the honor. They spoke very highly about their involvement not only in the Jewish community but also the Jewish Historic Society, and we're very touched that you've committed this lecture in their honor. A special thank you to the board and Ava Weller. We thank you for taking the time to reach out to us and say, we want to come up with a lecture to honor your parents. Can you help me brainstorm about a topic? So that's a nice little segue to say that when we were closing up my parents' house after Dad passed away, we found things that we didn't even know about. So Dad has certainly talked about his time in the service, and one thing that stood up was his involvement or the opportunity to participate as an observer at the Nuremberg trials. He just in passing had said, and you'll see in the Jewish historical tape, that he said, I attended it, but he also said it really influenced his life. So when we were packing up the house, we found some old photos of his time in the service, which unfortunately we hadn't seen while he was alive. And as Madeline will talk more about, a whole pouch of letters that he had written to his friends and his family that were saved. So that's the topic. So thank you.
Thank you. So to continue where Pamela left off, as she said, the connection to the Nuremberg trials really came from going through their houses and their drawers and coming upon this. And we sat at the kitchen table and read these letters. I don't even know who put this together, but it was saved and it's an archive, and it just means all these places and stories and carrying on the stories. It's so important to pass them on. I wish we had known more before Dad had passed on. There's so many questions I'd love to ask him. So I wanted to read a piece of one of the letters, which will connect us with what our lecture is today. Hi, Bill, and this was to a dear childhood friend. It's been a long time since I've heard from you, so here's another letter to push your pen along. I have a funny feeling that both of us are living through enough things to tell our children about for the rest of their lives. And he wrote this as an 18, 19-year-old, which is just amazing to sit here as his adult children and think he was going to tell us these stories as a young man, and we miss them. Practically every day turns up something new or different. And I think how germane to what's happening right now. I'm still working as I&E with the new little of assistant questions added on. I don't even know what that says. I got that other stripe so that I'm T4 now. The rank doesn't mean too much, but those extra dollars always help. The only gripe I've got about my job is a colonel now, my boss, and he is as chicken as they come. The captain that was in charge is assisted to the colonel, and he's trying to take care of his boys. As I told you before, I take care of schools, among other things, and along that line, I got a quota to send a few men to visit the Nuremberg war crime trials. Naturally, yours truly went, and he got within spitting distance of all those big boys, including Göring, Hess, Ribbentrop, and 18 other bastards. So he was there, and if we can learn more and carry on the story, how incredible. And in closing, I'm going to add a birthday note that my grandmother sent to Dad when he was in training at Norwich in Vermont. And she wrote, I hope by your next birthday we shall celebrate it in peacetime. Meanwhile, be well and get strong. And let finding peace be a lesson that we learn from the trials. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing your treasures, and it brings to mind that there may be other treasures out there in your own attics or basements, and please look for them because they they can be heirlooms for the future. So for this particular topic, it ties personal history and global history together. Our goal was to bring to the community a thought-provoking lecture by a renowned authority, and the topic is one that is not only of historic significance, but increasingly relevant today. John Q. Barrett is a professor of law at St. John's University in New York City, where he teaches constitutional law and legal history. He's also the Elizabeth S. Lennon Fellow and a board member of the Robert H. Jackson Center in Jamestown, New York. Professor Barrett is writing the biography of Robert H. Jackson, U.S. Supreme Court Justice and Nuremberg Chief Prosecutor of the principal Nazi war criminals following World War II. Justice Jackson is recognized as one of the finest writers, lawyers, judges, and leaders, and as one who lived one of the most consequential, relevant, and inspiring lives in modern history. Professor Barrett is a renowned teacher, writer, public commentator, and lecturer in the U.S. and internationally. In November 2016, he spoke at the historic Nuremberg courtroom at the city's program commemorating the 70th anniversary of the start of the Nuremberg trial. Professor Barrett is author of numerous articles and chapters, including the Jackson List periodic emails, which reach over 100,000 readers around the world. He's a graduate of Georgetown University and Harvard Law School and served as a law clerk to U.S. Circuit Judge A. Leon Higginbotham, Jr. And so now, Nuremberg Lessons, what happened then and why it matters now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ava and Madeline and Pamela, and each of you for being here this morning. An incredibly gorgeous day in a region that has lots of alternative places you could be. So I'm deeply flattered, and I know it's not personal. It is the topic, and it is your sense of the ongoing relevance of considering something like this. What makes it possible is the Historical Society, which you support, which has put this together, and which is an example of a vital, ongoing educational treasure in a community and a region and across a much bigger span than we will ever see. Historical societies capture in the present what we can know and learn and ask and gather and invests it in the future. And so the archives, the programs, the videotapes, the footprints of today will be followed by grandchildren and you name it, who we can't name or even really imagine. But they will learn from and study and then take from the past and plug into their presence some of the richest pieces of the legacies that we have to offer. That's what Nuremberg 71 years ago and forward is for us today. That's what the lives of the senior Manns are for us today. That's what each of you is today for the future. And so I'm just a small vehicle to be part of discussing something like that. What I have on the screen is a photo, and I will have a number through the course of this talk. This is courtroom 600 in the Palace of Justice, the courthouse in Nuremberg, Germany, in November 1945. We'll come back to this scene and I will orient you, but generally that is the Nuremberg trial courtroom. That is history's courtroom, that is humanity's courtroom. That's the courtroom that Milton Mann visited as an observer working on occupation army educational programming during the course of this trial. It's easy for us to look at Nuremberg as, of course, it looks to us, a historic achievement, an event in the late 1940s, a post-war accountability process. But that's Nuremberg from the back end. And what I want to do, I hope, is reorient you a little bit during this talk to Nuremberg from the front end. I want you to think of Nuremberg not as a done, completed achievement, but Nuremberg as a city where they found a building, where they decided to pursue an endeavor that was novel and perilous and man-made and all the frailties and screw-ups that come with that. And they got it done. Not perfectly by any means. Plenty of bad days and missteps, and hindsight is always a wonderful vantage point. But they put themselves to this task. And that's the lesson of history. You plug into somebody who put themselves to a task, and the ones that impress us and come to be meaningful over time are the higher tasks, the higher pursuits, the better uses of time, the things that actually got it done as best they could. And that's the story of human endeavor. Now, that's a face of human endeavor. That's Milton Mann. In 2008 is when this oral history video was taken. I didn't have the privilege to meet Mr. Mann or Norma Mann, but I feel well acquainted with them now through the videotape interview, which luckily the Historical Society gathered. It brought me into their home, to the hearth of their fireplace, to the stories, to their chemistry and byplay, and very modest recounting of their lives of substantial contribution. This is another face, and it's the one that I start with as a biographer. That's Justice Robert H. Jackson, who served on the U.S. Supreme Court during the 1940s and 1950s, who lived a short life by our modern standards, 1892 to 1954, only 62 years. What a little modern cardiology could have done didn't exist in his time, unfortunately. And he becomes the chief U.S. prosecutor at the one and only International Nuremberg trial. My path into Nuremberg is as an American lawyer, a former Justice Department prosecutor, a law professor, a constitutional law teacher, a student of the U.S. Supreme Court, and particularly a student, scholar, biographer of Justice Jackson. But once I got started on Jackson, of course, the sort of big centerpiece topic in his life was the 18 months he spent as the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg. So Supreme Court, constitutional law, Jackson, Nuremberg is my path. His path starts here, and I'm going to give you just a very quick tour of his life. This is a beautiful little farm valley in northwest Pennsylvania. It's in Warren County. That's the birthplace of Robert Jackson in 1892, a family farm. His great-grandfather came west from, yes, here's your hook, Connecticut, after his Revolutionary War service, got as far as the Western Reserve, lived in a stockade fort during the Indian Wars. Didn't love that, so retreated a little bit to Pennsylvania and picked this valley. And he and a buddy cleared the land and built a log cabin, and generation. 4 generations later, 1801 to 1892, they had this great-grandson. He was born in this farmhouse, and I'm no architect, but I'd say you see a little Connecticut. In that architectural style, that's not the log cabin. That's when a little bit more prosperity allowed them to build up on the banks of this creek, and that's where the boy was born. The father of the future Justice Jackson was not cut out for farming, and maybe there's an American story generally in there too. So when Robert Jackson was a boy, the family moved from Pennsylvania above the state line into New York State to a little village called Frewsburg. It's still basically an intersection with a delicious ice cream stand right at the stop sign. And Jackson's father opened the Jackson Hotel. This is circa 1904. The Jackson Hotel, like every